You can change the neuroplasticity within your brain, and you no longer have to be bound or shackled by those negative beliefs, but it takes work to do that.
Why don't we do the work?
There are many reasons why people do not do the work. It is either they are afraid to do the work, don't feel they deserve to be the best version of themselves, and going back to that confirmation bias. They don't have the support system, whether that's internal or external. Doing the work is hard, but the rewards are worth it.
Do you think that people can become addicted to their trauma? Cherri, welcome back.
Thank you for having me again.
The last show, you had just so many nuggets, so many quotes that were so good. You talked about your ACE score.
Yes.
I had a follow-up question. Do you think that people can become addicted to the past or addicted to their trauma?
I would say it is very easy to become addicted to your past when you have defined it as being normal. It's like being around someone who's always negative, or someone who is always thinking that someone is out to get them. Now, there's other reasons that someone can have that type of personality. I am not in a position to diagnose anyone, but sometimes being addicted to something that's not healthy for you can feel like home. And that makes people feel comfortable. There's this thing called confirmation bias, where we seek things that confirm the belief we have, whether it's a positive belief or a negative belief. And we naturally want to be right about everything, right? It's our ego. We want to soothe and calm and comfort our ego. And that may look like always seeking out things that are harmful because it feels like home.
Do you have an example of that confirmation bias for people out there that this is a new term?
Yes. So say, for instance, you don't believe that you can accomplish a task at hand because you've always been told that you're not enough. And that may be told by someone you love, trusted in your life, or it could be something that took place where you feel that it's communicating to you that you're not enough. So when you come across something that is a challenge or something new, you often say to yourself, I can't do this because I am not smart enough. I can't achieve this goal because nothing has ever worked out for me in the past. So we sometimes play things in repeats. It's our internal soundtrack. And that soundtrack can be in loop and in unhealthy ways.
Man, the cycle is so vicious. Mm-hmm. And I think the first part of getting out of it is recognizing that you're in it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is the thing that's so beautiful about the brain. It's a beautiful, complicated, complex machine that is malleable. For years, scientists thought it was something that was fixed, but with proper work, proper habits, you can change the neuroplasticity within your brain, and you no longer have to be bound or shackled by those negative beliefs, but it takes work to do that.
Why don't we do the work? Is it because we're just flat out afraid to face it? We just don't feel like we're equipped?
There are many reasons why people do not do the work. It is either they are afraid to do the work, they don't feel they deserve to be the best version of themselves, and going back to that confirmation bias. They don't have the support system, whether that's internal or external, to do the work. Doing the work is hard, but the rewards are worth it.
Did you shared when you were previously on about your story. Yes. And growing up with parents who are addicted, and there's just so much instability in your life. When you became aware, you had that epiphany, that God moment where you're like, I don't have to stay here. This is not my destiny. But do you encourage people to, because there's kind of a couple different camps and a couple ways to splice this and dice this. You can go back and do the psychotherapy and do the work, do the healing from the past, or you can focus on the future. And then some people talk about both. How do you recommend people handle that?
It depends on the person, right? Sometimes going too far, too deep in the past can be re-traumatizing. And that's where you need a good support system, whether that is working with someone that you trust, family or friend. It could look like a therapist. It could look like a coach. But having a partner in that journey is helpful. If you want to start in the middle, have a hodgepodge approach and tap a little bit into the past, but stay focused on the future, that North Star, that's also available. Or if you want to say, you know what, not right now, I don't want to work on the past, but I want to focus on North Star only, that's also available. But there are countless options and ways that you can attack this.
And previously you said you had a North Star. You were focusing on what lies ahead.
Yes.
That was what really led you out of your environment.
Absolutely.
Obviously, you were led out of your environment mentally and emotionally before you were gone physically.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And my North Star at that time was education. A lot of people go to college to get a degree so they can have a career, but I went to college so that way I can get out of the house. And that was the only way that I knew that my environment would change. Also, I don't know if I shared this story with you offline, but my brother and I had this pact where I would go to college for 2 years and he would stay home and send me money. He bought my car so I can get to Indianapolis. And then in turn, after my 2 years, I would in turn help him. So my sophomore year, we worked together, found a college for him to go to, got him set up in an apartment. And that's a whole different story in itself, and helped put him through school. And we ended up graduating college both the same year. So the North Star for me has always been that thing that guided me through life. But I started having that North Star mentality, like I said, early on in life. It was just, Cherri, stay focused, stay on the course. I had to transport myself mentally and emotionally and out. And that hope was that thing that kept me, that faith, that constant communicating with God and saying, I know what your promises are to me, for me, and you got a reputation you got to keep. If I fail out here, that's on you, right? And I can have a whole separate conversation about my conversations with God. They're very bold, but he says, come boldly, right?
That's right.
But the North Star has always been my thing for me, and I have several North Stars right now.
Why do you think it is that so many people struggle with the concept that until my physical circumstances change, I'm stuck?
Because we're visual beings. Most of us, those who are born in a different situation that doesn't apply to them, but we're visual beings. We want to see things. It's kind of like the story in the Bible where they wanted a king, right? Because having an invisible God wasn't enough. So they had this golden calf because they want to see something. They want to have something to praise, to worship. That's just human nature. But we have to be in the spirit, right? We have to go within and know there's something bigger and greater out there for us. And it's very easy to lean in on the flesh and have something that I need to see this right here, right now. But that's where the faith is. That's where the hope is. And I think I mentioned this quote before: if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change, right? And one of my favorite stories in the Bible is a story about Joseph, the one with the coat with many colors, and how he had to go through all of that and ended up saving his people. There are things that we go through, we grow through, that's not for us. It's to save a people, right? And so that always gave me hope as well. But going back to your question about why do we feel the need to have something physical, it's just human nature. But that's why we need to kill the flesh and lean into the spirit.
Yeah, and Joseph's story, I mean, what a great example, because he had every reason to stay stuck in the pit.
Absolutely.
Like mentally and emotionally, and like the questions of why me? How, this is unfair. You know, people get stuck in that place and they think my circumstances have gone from bad to worse to worse to worse. Everything's out to get me. That confirmation bias is kicking in.
Absolutely.
But he was able to rise above that.
Yes.
What do you tell people who are stuck, and we have a quick commercial break here in a minute, but what do you tell people that are stuck in that pit thinking it's just a pipe dream that I'm going to move out of this? Like, what would you advise them how to mentally start moving before they can physically change?
I would dive deeper and say, let's reflect on a time that you were in a challenge before. You have everything you need, if not more, in this hour to overcome. Challenge is not new to you. We tend to forget our receipts. We have plenty of receipts. And we also have promises that must be fulfilled.
So good. I love that. We have so much within us to tap into. We got to take a quick commercial break. We'll come right back with more Cherri Kulp after this. Thanks for tuning in.
Hey, 5-Star Nation. I just want to let you know that you can now listen to the 5-Star Life Show with Coach Seth anywhere podcasts are streamed, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and more. You can also watch us by subscribing to our YouTube channel at The 5-Star Life. You can watch us on our new program platform partner, Your Home TV. Just go to yourhometv.com and look for 5-Star Life with Coach Seth. Finally, if you've been listening and you want to take the next step in getting involved, volunteering, donating, or bringing 5-Star Life to your home or community, go to 5starlife.org. And for those parents and grandparents, there is still time to register your kids for our transformational summer camps and clubs. You can find all open programs at 5starlife.org.
Cherri, you have mentioned, spiritual things in your faith. How did you find that?
Yes. So what's so interesting, we didn't attend church when I was young. However, my mother has an angelic voice, and I remember her singing "Oh Happy Day," and my grandparents went to church. And so it was in the subconscious. It was in the background. But I met God under my bed crying at a very early age, I think 7, 8 years of age. And that's when the relationship began.
Let me understand that. Unpack how you met God under your bed crying. What does that mean?
So I was vulnerable. I was desperate. The people that were placed in my life to protect me did not. And so I had nothing else, right? I couldn't expect my brother, who's a year and 15 days younger than I, to do anything, right? Because he's a kid, he's a baby. And couldn't really go to extended kin as well. So it just happened organically and naturally. And that's when I started praying. And I think I mentioned the last time that I started praying in rhyme, which turned into me writing poetry, which in turn put me in a position to be a professional spoken word artist, where I would travel and compete and things like that. And so the seed was already there. But that's how I met God, when I was open, vulnerable. We tend to, no disrespect to those who come down the aisle and find themselves or find God in that journey. But there are other stories where people find themselves in crack houses, right? There are stories where people are finding themselves in alleys, dark alleys. I feel like with my situation, it was a very raw and real moment. And I'm 7, not understanding the dynamics of God, child, whatever relationship, but I knew there was something bigger than I available to help me. I just needed to find a way to get there.
And there's something about childlike faith. I think as adults, we let our brains and all we've learned get in the way of the pure essence of where we came from,
yes,
whose we are, and how this really works.
Yes.
So I think Jesus talked about children so emphatically,
yes,
that we should be learning from them.
Absolutely.
And then, kind of to piggyback on that, you've talked previously about resilience and overcoming and choosing not to be this victim, but to be a person that lives in victory.
Yes.
And I know at some point, to get to where you are, there's a letting go and a forgiveness process. Is that a part of your story too, or?
Yes, it is. And it took a very, very long time to completely forgive my parents. because I felt like they were responsible for a lot of the things that took place in my life, a lot of things that happened to me. And even to this day, there's still some effects that I feel because of that, the situations. And I think I shared with you when we first met about how I tried out to play basketball in high school and was personally invited by then Coach Cottons, who was just a beast in her own right and developed many great basketball players, and went to try out and had an anxiety attack in the bathroom. Because I was afraid if I make the team, I can't work. And if I don't work, I can't provide food for my family. And I was 15. And that, I felt I was robbed because
you were.
Yeah.
I mean, quite frankly.
Yes.
Right?
This is true.
Yeah.
Because what would my life have been if I would have gone pro or had, scholarships to pay for college, because I was in so much student loan debt.
Yep.
When I think about it. And so that comes up. And so I'm like, okay, my life would have been different if I had parents who were A, B, and C, right? And so I remember when I came back home, when I was living in Atlanta, I came back up north to go to graduate school in Chicago, and I was living in South Bend doing that. And my father said to me, "When are you going to forgive us? We're not doing drugs anymore. When are you going to forgive us?" And I paused in my tracks, and I was met face to face with who I was. And I knew I had to begin to do the work. There's a quote that says, "Unforgiveness is like drinking poison, hoping the other person dies." I was bound by unforgiveness. And I forgot to see the jewels, the gems that were planted within me from that adversity, right? Patience, kindness, empathy, wisdom. Wisdom is a gift that is given to us when we overcome. And so I had to let go. Not for them, for me, because I could not get to the next level that God has called me to be if I am anchored by unforgiveness.
And I run into so many people who they're coming out of their brokenness, they're coming out of their trauma, and they're winning, and you can see the process where there's still some attachments there.
Yes.
And I just always encourage people, like, man, do this work, face this, because that bitterness, like you said, it's only hurting you at this point.
Absolutely.
It makes me think, too, you referenced Joseph, I mean, I think it's kind of interesting if we put the shoe on the other foot and think, well, if Joseph would have had that mindset, like, what would my life have been like if I wouldn't have been sold into slavery, if I never would have been put in that pit?
Yes.
I mean, it's so interesting how somehow in this master plan that God has, like, I would never wish anything that's bad that happens to any of us on anybody.
Right.
We know it's not good, it's not right.
Right.
But somehow it's almost as if when those bad things happen, even if you look at Scripture, somehow that causes God to zoom in and locate you and do something that only He could do, that maybe would have never, ever happened if that adversity hadn't happened.
Absolutely.
Which is hard to wrap our brains around, that idea.
Right. Because we think we're gods. And so in order for God to be the God, He has to be the God, right? And I truly believe that all things work together for the good, even when it doesn't feel good, right? And we have to be patient with the process. And so whenever one feels like they can't get out, or they're having a challenging time with unforgiveness, is to imagine who you will be on the other side, right? And remind yourself of God's promises. I tell everybody, a lot of people, that I am in the last book of Job, the part where it's double for your trouble. This is my season, and it will be until the end. right? Because I had all of that other stuff before, right? I didn't curse God and die, right? But I was consistent. And so we have to find hope in God's word and find hope in God's promises. His reputation precedes him. And I always tell him, I say, look, I'm out here bragging about you. Your reputation is on the line, not mine. Mm-hmm. So what are you going to do about this? Right? Him and I, we go way back, right? Like babies and pacifiers, right? And it is because of that relationship that I am confident in my walk.
Love it. You shared a quote from Les Brown last time you were here. If you choose what is hard, your life will be easy. If you choose what is easy, your life will be hard.
Yes.
Forgiveness is hard.
It is. But being free feels so easy. It is a beautiful thing to be free. Who the Son has set free is free indeed.
Absolutely love it. Okay, we're out of time. Again, thanks for taking time to join us. Where can people find you?
Yes, you can find me on my website at unearthedcc.com. Info@unearthedcc.com as well is my email address. And I'm also on LinkedIn, Cherri Kulp.
And these are all things you would like to walk people through.
Absolutely. I hope people quiet their inner critic so they can lead with greater clarity, confidence, and resilience.
Awesome. Thank you, Cherri.
Thank you.